Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to give everybody just a few minutes as we get started here with our webinar. We're excited to be here today with Rubin from Ebsta. But we'll do introductions here in just a bit as to get everybody sort of on board and ready to rock. We've been planning this webinar for a while. Guy, I know that you guys have been, you also have this report. I hope that everybody has gotten a chance to at least browse through it because the information there is so fantastic. And as we wait for everyone to join in today, I just want to say that report is amazing. It's great. And I'm so excited that today we're going to be able to talk about sort of the 5 main points from the report itself. Just in light of us having a few minutes here while everybody joins us, do you maybe want to talk through a little bit of the report itself and give us just a little bit of a sneak peek of how that goes so we can start getting in the mood of the webinar itself?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Diana, thank you so much for hosting us. I think we've all been looking forward to this one for a while. This is actually the 3rd year we created this report, so and it's our biggest one yet. So a huge amount of effort and energy went into creating this content, and this year we analysed more data than ever. So I'm going to talk about kind of how much data we processed and where it came from, but fascinating insights, and we were able to slice and dice the data in a way we've never done before. We produced the report in conjunction with Pavilion, so that community is got so much credibility and so many members now. So huge amounts of data flowing through the platform now. So we're able to really slice and dice. For the very first time, we broke the data down into SMB deals, mid-market and enterprise as well, really looking at the different signals that drive revenue in different markets, different verticals, different geographies, and different size deals. So yeah, a fascinating look into the world of B2B sales, and looking at the key drivers that I think a lot of us know. Our gut feel tells us what drives revenue, but some fascinating insights, and even this far in, finding that I'll share a few secrets with you, but only 30% of opportunities open close one, and that's across the board. And some markets are slightly better and some are slightly worse. But what was fascinating is that the deals that eventually close lost spend twice as long in pipe as deals that close one.
There you go.
All of those inefficiencies, right? How much time and energy is spent on opportunities that we hope and wish were going to work, but the signals are probably telling us a lot sooner that actually this deal's never going to close one.
Yeah. And I find this particularly fascinating because there's been a huge wave, let's say 10 years ago, data-driven analysis, all that good stuff was mostly for the marketing piece, right? There was never really a lot of talk around data-driven analysis and gap analysis for sales. And so it's just been in the last few years that we're starting to see that. And this report that you guys have created is one of the big pieces that I've seen around that. How do we actually action on that data? How do we actually start putting together that data, understanding where we have the gaps, and really move forward? So for everybody that has just joined us, we are here with Rubin from Ebsta. RevPartners is hosting the webinar today, but we're really excited to give the floor to Guy so that we can talk through the 5 proven ways to close more deals in 2023. And we were setting the stage with a little bit of background around the report that has fed us the information around the webinar itself. And I'm going to go ahead into the agenda in just a minute here, because I think we have a good amount of attendees, and as people jump in, we'll sort of catch them up as well with a few summaries of each point. But it's going to be so great to see how this information also ties into HubSpot at the very end. I'm so excited to see that. So I think we can go ahead and get started. Let's jump into things. So I'll go ahead and just briefly introduce myself. I'm Dana Gonzalez. I'm from the RevPartners team. I'm currently the sales director, but just for everybody's context, I started at RevPartners as a RevOps strategist, and I have a background in marketing. So there's just like a lot of different takes that I have in regards to the information itself. And right now I can tell you, we are working closely with Ebsta to action on our own sales initiative. So we're super excited to be here with Ebsta today. Guy, give us please a little bit of an introduction of yourself.
Thank you, Diana. Well, again, really excited to be here. So my name is Guy Rubin. I'm the CEO of Ebsta. We are a European-based software business. We present Ebsta as a revenue intelligence platform, and we work really closely with businesses like RevPartners, where the technology and the change management come together to help businesses build scalable revenue engines. Yeah, excited to share some insights today and give everyone some visibility of what we've been working on recently.
Yeah, and honestly, we've been working with Ebsta for maybe a few months, 6 months. We're so excited to enter this partnership. We are partners with Ebsta right now. It's just revenue operations, revenue tool. Like, it's just a great match. Like I said, we are starting to use Ebsta internally because the amount of value that we see within the type of revenue forecasting within Ebsta is just absolutely incredible. So with that, I'll give you guys a little bit of background in regards to RevPartners. We are, we are a HubSpot partner. We're probably one of the fastest growing to elite partners within HubSpot. And we are first and foremost a RevOps shop. So we focus on what does the RevOps actually look like? What does your data model need to look like? And what is your revenue goal? And then based off of that information and your strategy, we really go in the background and we start configuring all of those items directly within HubSpot. So that's the context that you guys should have from my side in regards to RevPartners. Go ahead and give them a little bit of a taste of Ebsta itself.
Very good. Yes, so we help businesses build their pipeline and their revenue engine in a scalable fashion. So the first thing we do for our customers is we help them fix the data inside in CRM. So we've got a unique engine that can trawl through historical email traffic, calendar events, call records, and find all of the engagement and activity that took place in every opportunity closed, won, and lost in the past. And we use that data to build a benchmark to do the analysis and understand how much engagement did you need with which stakeholders at which stage of every sales cycle to achieve the optimal outcome. Same applies for success and renewals as well. So step one, fix the data. Step two, do the benchmarking. And then we're in a place where we can start delivering positive and negative factors on every live opportunity in flight inside HubSpot. And the beauty of what we do is we deliver all our data points back into the system of record, so you can actually build out the reports you need to understand what's going on in real time and identify opportunities at risk. So that's a little bit about us.
And Guy, that had me thinking about something in particular. So at RevPartners, we have like these ethos, which is process, tool, adoption. And you guys have really narrowed down in regards to the process to adoption piece, because this is probably one of the best integrations that I've seen with HubSpot. I can't wait for people to see it right at the end of the webinar. But building the adoption of Ebsta through HubSpot and back and forth, like I can see managers being in Ebsta, leaving in Ebsta, doing their forecasting there, and then the rest of the team really being able to adopt on all the information and the insights within HubSpot. So I just wanted to do that little bit of a plug so that we can sort of like see how that RevOps mindset plays into what you guys are building here.
Yeah, no, agreed. Look, the key is to minimize change management and deliver value to the team exactly wherever they're working. So we try and deliver the insights that everyone needs on the opportunity records, on the account records, and we make the dashboards really easy to engage with. So it gives you all the tools you need to really scale. So let's jump in. I mean, I'm very conscious of everyone's time. We recently did a report which we're going to share some of the insights for, and the first half of today's webinar, I'm going to be sharing some of the insights and the secrets we found by analyzing all of this data. And then we're going to jump in and actually show you this data inside HubSpot. So hopefully you're all looking forward to seeing how the data actually starts to help you make decisions and run a bit faster.
Perfect. So, let's dig in.
Let's jump straight in. So this is the report that we produced and in conjunction with Pavilion, and we analysed just over 3.2 million opportunities, and that represented $37 billion worth of pipeline. So you can see that we've done more analysis than we've ever done before. As I said before, this is our third year of doing this work. And so as we jump into the data, there's some really interesting insights, okay? Really the scariest part of the report was that we found that only less than a third of reps are actually consistently hitting quota. That in itself is pretty scary, but when you then add to that that nearly 20% of reps don't even have a quota to hit, it highlights the size of the challenge that we see in the commercial world. So if you're on this journey to being data driven, all I'd say is don't worry. There's a lot of people behind you. There's a lot of people that haven't even got on that train yet and still believe in gut feel and putting their arms around sales reps and telling them that everything will be okay. So we want to help you to build that data driven approach. But we need to recognize the state of the market that we're in. So it's worth understanding that we saw win rates drop by 15% last year. We also saw the average deal values reduced by a third and the time to close increased by a third. Now, we've actually started doing some analysis on kind of the first half of 2023. And there is some good news. We are seeing green shoots. We're seeing deal values increase again and deals sales cycles reduce down again. But only those that are being more data driven are getting that consistency built in. So rather than focusing on the negative, what I thought we'd do is jump in and look at, well, what are the 29% that are consistently hitting quota? What are they doing differently to everybody else? And there's really kind of 5 areas we're going to jump in on. So you won't be surprised to hear that the initial focus has, and probably the biggest impact on B2B sales revenue is relationships. So even in 2023, relationships drive revenue, okay? So the first challenge we needed to work out is how are we going to measure the strength of a relationship? And so we came up with a formula, and we now give every relationship every customer has a score out of 100. And that engagement score goes up and down over time. The ebb and flow of that sales data, hence the name Ebsta, drives the engagement score. So it's not unusual to end a sales process with an engagement score with a good level of engagement with the key stakeholders involved in the sales cycle. But the purpose of this graphic at the top here is to show that there is a material impact on win rates if you can increase the engagement from being a good level of engagement to great. And for us, anything above 81 is considered a great level of engagement. And you can see that the impact on win rates is 3x if you can increase the engagement from good to great. So the lesson here is if you're running complex, multi-threaded B2B sales processes and you're at late stage, lean in. Find ways of engaging further. Find reasons to have a coffee with the key stakeholders, to find ways of engaging with them and build that relationship, because ultimately that relationship moat that you build around your customer is one of the key drivers to them going with you instead of a competitor or actually doing nothing at all. We can also see in the graphic below that the positive influence of engagement with on sales cycle. So once again, if we can increase the engagement with the key stakeholders involved in the sales cycle above 80, you can actually reduce the sales cycle by 40%. So understanding who those stakeholders are and leaning into those relationships and getting that momentum higher will drive the ability to get those deals done. Moving on, the next thing we looked at was how many stakeholders are involved in the sales process, so what we call multi-threading. So now here, what's interesting here is it wasn't the same for every different type of sales process. But what we can see here in the graphic is that the impact on win rate was directly linked to how many stakeholders were actively involved in a sales process. And so the impact of increasing your average number of people involved in a sales cycle from maybe 4 to 7 can increase the win rate by 25%. Okay, so try and understand how multi-threaded you're being on those opportunities and help the individual contributors to actually get one more, or show the individual contributors the impact of having one more stakeholder involved on their win rates. And all of a sudden because they want to win as much as you do. So if you can show them the data, they'll be on board with it as well. But it's not just about how many stakeholders are involved in the sales process. It's about targeting the right relationships at the right time. And what was fascinating as we went through this exercise is we found it wasn't always the right thing to do to target the economic buyer, for example, in those early stages. You might be better off targeting a key influencer. And again, the beauty is the data already exists within your business. It's just not in the right place. So by connecting up to the mailboxes, the calendars, the phone systems, we can do this historical analysis and produce insights like this graphic here on the right, where we can start to understand the influence, which stakeholders you should be engaging at each stage of the sales cycle. And what's the impact if you get, for example, the CFO involved one stage earlier or one stage later? So really understanding the DNA of a good deal and using that as a benchmark helps you to understand where you need to go to next. Now, the next thing we found as a big influence on the likelihood of a deal closing is when customers are using a qualification methodology. Okay, now what was really interesting is it didn't seem to have a material impact as to which methodology you use. So don't try and get too complex. If your sales process doesn't require it, you may not need the full MEDDPICC. You might choose MEDDIC or BANT. And there's all sorts of others out there as well. But pick one, and there is a world of difference in saying that they've done it in their heads or writing it in their book and actually logging it in the CRM. Actually going through that discipline of logging the MEDDPICC or MEDDIC inside the CRM, we could see even within the same organization, the impact, the difference between consistently the top performers are the ones that are logging that activity. And even out of all of MEDDPICC, if you're only going to pick 3 areas, focusing on, as you can see here, the metrics, the decision criteria, and the paper process alone. All right, those 3 we found to be the hot spots. But start building that discipline in, because the process, we find that a lot of salespeople will put their rose-tinted glasses on, say they've asked who the economic buyer is or whether there's a budget, and actually they've kind of skipped over it. And all of a sudden you're investing more time and energy in a sales process when in fact there is no budget to buy from. And so knowing that earlier helps us fail faster and helps us move on to something more productive. Finally, what we all know is that time kills all deals, okay? But by how much? And really being able to measure this impact of slippage on win rates means that we can start to understand when we should be brave enough to close a deal off as lost. And you can start to see here in the graphics that very quickly, once a deal sales cycle doubles the average sales process, it reduces the win rate by less than 1%. So knowing that sooner means you can empower the salespeople to move on to more productive things. And we talked about slippage before, but again, we've never seen slippage as high as this. And this is the 3rd year we've run this report. So really trying to understand what those lead indicators are to whether a deal is still fit for purpose when you do start to see slippage is key. And we've listed them out here on the right-hand side. So I hope you all found those insights useful. I'm happy to jump in and answer any questions as we go. But I thought what we do now is leave the deck and jump into HubSpot Direct.
Yeah, just to add something here, towards the end of the demo, we're actually going to have a Q&A session. You guys can start dropping any questions that you have within the chat, and we'll be happy to go through those once we finish the demo itself. And Guy, just to add something, when we talk about RevOps, we really talk about 3 different levers that we can pull from: average deal size, average time to close, and the actual amount of deals, right? And so you've hit every single one of those with all the information that you've gone through this, and you've added, in my perspective, something really valuable with Ebsta, which is the relationship score itself. And once you guys see what this looks like in terms of like how the activity feeds into what type of relationship you're able to have with each one of these opportunities, it changes the way that you see each one of the deals, right? You can then relate the average deal size with that relationship score. You can then relate that average time to close with the relationship score. So really great stuff over here. I'll let you continue on to the demo itself.
I appreciate that, Diana. Yes, we know that relationships drive revenue, so we needed to find a way of consistently capturing that data without relying on the humans themselves in logging that activity manually. So we built an engine to put it all and flush all those data points into HubSpot, and we turned these individual scores, this data into individual scores that you can then lean into and compare deals that have closed in the past to live pipeline. So before I jump in, very briefly, at the end of the presentation, we're going to give you an access to this link where you can actually download the full report yourselves, and happy to connect with you all on LinkedIn as well if you've got any additional questions. But let's jump into HubSpot. So here we are inside HubSpot, and what we're looking at now is a number of, I'm going to walk you through 3 or 4 different graphics that you can now build inside HubSpot, or Diana and her team can build for you using the data points we're writing into HubSpot. Okay, so we're going to start at the top of the funnel and look at account-based marketing. Now, if 5 years ago, marketing were responsible for generating leads, and then 3 years ago, they were responsible for generating opportunities. Well, now marketing has the data finally to be able to be responsible for the actual number, for revenue, okay? And the way we can do that is by analyzing the influence of, by analyzing the historical deals that closed won and lost in the past, we can start to give marketing visibility of what a really good opportunity looks like, okay? And if we know that perhaps, let's keep it simple, there's 3 pots of opportunities, and if we can find customers that look like X and have high propensity or high intent, and that they're in market ready to buy, then marketing knows that if the sales process is run correctly, then you're going to get a phenomenal close win rate on those opportunities. And so now marketing has that data. They can actually start to, instead of sales constantly bashing marketing, going, come on, I want more leads, marketing are now able to say, come on, I've given you those leads. I know what conversion rates you should be able to achieve. I want to see that you're doing the job right during that sales cycle. And so in this graphic here, what we're looking at is the Ebsta, is the propensity score, so telling us whether the client was in market or not when we started speaking with them, so the leads that the marketing has generated, versus the Ebsta engagement score, the relationship score, to telling us how many relationships or how well the sales team are doing at building those relationships with that prospect. So for example, this opportunity down here, we can see, oh, sorry, clicked too many times. We can see this opportunity down here. The marketing team have done a great job. This lead has got a really high propensity score. We know they're in market. We know they're interested in buying whatever we're selling. However, we can see that the sales team have only got 2 relationships at this account, and they've only got a relationship score of 14. So they're not doing enough to actually build momentum and engagement with this relationship and with this account. On the opposite side, we can see that there's a number of opportunities up here where the sales team are investing a lot of time and energy with these customers, but they really aren't in market. Their propensity score is very, very low. And so they're not really showing us the signals that this customer is likely to buy. And so the conversion rates are likely to be much, much lower. Now, for those in marketing, we've been data-driven now for a decade, so we understand this stuff. But we need to help the sales team by showing them the data, showing them the graphics, and explaining to them that time spent on opportunities with low propensity scores are less likely to spend money with us than those with a high propensity score. I'm going to rattle on to the next dashboards here. So now we're looking at the sales pipeline itself. And once again, what we've got is the close date on the bottom versus the engagement score across the side. And so what we're able to identify here is opportunities that have been planned into close. They're in pipe. They're telling us they're going to close, but they've got a very low engagement score. And so there's some risks associated to those opportunities, and we want to understand what's going on there. And we can dive further down. We can start to look at the opportunities that are currently in pipe. These ones have got a high engagement score, so they're being managed correctly. But these ones up here have got a very low engagement score, but they're still being told that they're in pipe. So we want to dig in and find out what's going on with those. So if we jump across, this view should be useful to should be familiar with most people that use HubSpot. This is, we can see our entire pipeline and all the different stages. But now every individual opportunity has got a deal score and a relationship score, as well as positive and negative factors as to how that opportunity is pacing against deals that were closed in the past. And if we jump into a live opportunity, what we can see here on the left-hand side is this specific opportunity has got a really nice relationship score and a good deal score, but these deal factors that are automatically populated by Ebsta into HubSpot, we can see in real time that there's a lot of positive things going on this opportunity. We can see that the relationship score is higher than expected at this stage, and it's increased in the last 7 days. We can also see that that it ticks a lot of boxes. However, on the negative side, normally we'd expect to have an engagement with the CMO, and no one's spoken to the CMO on this opportunity. We can also see there's no calls or meetings booked in the future, and the deal amount has dropped in the last 7 days. So we want to understand what's gone on there when we're doing our deal review. And the same applies if we're looking at a live account. So in this example, I'm looking at an account record, and I can see on the left-hand side the propensity score. And that propensity score has got positive and negative factors associated to it. Again, all automatically populated on your behalf. So we can see that in this particular case, this account looks good. It looks like a really good target account that we should be spending time with. And we can see all the reasons why it's a positive account. But we can also see they've not had any marketing activity in the last 7 days, and they aren't using our free trial either. And on the right-hand side, we can see the stakeholders in our business that hold a relationship with people at this account and how strong that relationship is. So that's just a flavor of some of the insights that we can deliver. And I hope you found that interesting and useful. Diana, did you want to cover anything extra on there?
Yeah, I actually want to do a little bit of a summary before we get on to the next piece, because we just went through a whole lot of information. First of all, if you can just go back to HubSpot, because I think it's super interesting in regards to the score itself, directly within the deal, the information that you're able to see within the deal. As I understand, Ebsta actually has this relationship scores. It calculates them specifically based on the owner of the deal or the owner of the company and the contact. And so my average relationship score could be different from somebody else in my team, and it recognizes that. That's right. Is that accurate, Guy?
That's right. So on the right-hand side on an account or an opportunity, we can see every contact that we have a relationship with and who in our organization holds that relationship. So even if it's the support team holding the relationship with a key stakeholder, knowing that in advance, it will tell us something, or the finance department, maybe they're chasing an invoice. Knowing that, so we can deliver these insights even for people that don't have a HubSpot license. So we can cover the entire customer, the whole company, and put all of the detail of who holds what relationship in real time inside HubSpot, so you know who to reach out to, who to lean into, and understand when they last engaged, the strength of the relationship, and whether it's trending up or trending down.
That's amazing. Okay, so if I were to think about this and summarize the scores, right? Because we've talked about a lot of different scores. So relationship score, propensity score, and then I'm actually going to talk in a second about MEDDPICC score. So relationship score is specifically tied to the activity that each one of us or a sales rep or whomever actually has with the client or clients in terms of like different contacts being associated to a company. And you guys are measuring things like emails, phone calls, meetings, all of that good stuff to understand that score.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. And then let's dig in a little bit more into propensity score, because that's tied to intent. How is that one calculated?
Well, you can see here some positive and negative factors. So by doing the analysis on deals that you've closed, won, and lost in the past, we're going to get a real good flavor for what good looks like for your particular division or market or geography or the entire business. So for this case, we know that this is a software company, and we've got a 37% better chance of selling to a software business than a generic business. We can also see that they're the right size for us, so we're winning on that front. We can also see that they've got a high Bombora score. So we just tied up with Bombora, who deliver us an intent score, and we break down some of the key areas that they're searching for. So in this case, this customer is searching for sales analytics, forecasting, and CRM reporting. So when combined, we get a really high velocity score for this particular level. We can also see whether they've been visiting the website, for example. There's a little bit of code you can put on there to capture that. And we can also see here that the CRO came back and completed this meeting us at the summit event form that we had. But there's some negative factors there as well. So we're taking all of that data points into consideration when we're putting together what we call the propensity score.
Fantastic. Okay, great. That sounds really good. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys now specifically a very customized version of MEDDPICC score. And so the idea with this is when you're actually doing your revenue forecasting and analysis, and you have all of these different data points that are feeding into the likelihood or risk of a deal actually closing, you really have to take a lot of things into account. And so we talked about the importance of having some sort of way to measure how the deal is shaping up. What I'm going to show you is a very personalized or customized way of doing MEDDPICC that we have implemented within our HubSpot account. So you guys can see how this also matches up with the type of information that we're seeing now from Ebsta and how that's eventually going to tie into that relationship score and that propensity score. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and I'll start with this piece. So one of the things that we did, and I'm just going to start really high level, showing you like the thought process of this so that you can see specifically what it is. So this is going to be specifically talking about MEDDPICC. And when we think about MEDDPICC, there's a lot of different ways that you can actually measure this, but I wanted something tangible, something that could be relatable to the scoring system that Ebsta has, because that's what we are basing our analysis on. And so when we went in and we thought about it, we said, okay, for each one of the different types of points that we need to gather within MEDDPICC, what is a good scenario, what is a bad scenario, and what is a medium scenario for us? And so that's what we went in and did. And so for metrics, for example, and this is specifically talking about RevPartners, so you guys can relate in regards to this particular service and how it matches with the information that you're going to see here. So if we take a look at metrics, somebody that needs to purchase HubSpot for, in terms of the RevPartners services specifically, maybe has a little bit less likelihood than somebody who already has HubSpot set up and is looking for growth, etc. But that's not the only point. And so we need to take a look at all of these different items in terms of MEDDPICC to really understand where we are within the deal and what's the likelihood of the deal. So this alone won't tell us anything. This is just going to add 1 point to our score, or 2 points, or 3 points, depending on what is chosen here. And so with this type of scoring, because usually with MEDDPICC, your sales reps would go in and just like add the information themselves on like a text field or somewhere where they're able to add very specific info as to what the client wants. But here I'm sort of forcing the adoption within HubSpot so that the reps know exactly what I'm looking for and understand what the options are for each one of the variables. So that's the first piece. Depending on what they choose for each one of these variables, the system will add a different scoring system to the total MEDDPICC score. And the second piece that I'll mention here is that these are required properties. And so that's part of the adoption. You have to make sure that your reps are actually adding the information on here. And Guy just went through that, right? Like if you're not adding the information onto HubSpot, you have a less likelihood, or into any CRM, you have less likelihood of actually closing your deal. So forcing that function into the system itself is really what is most suggested. And so here we have really understood at which point should our reps be actually capturing the information, and where are we going to make it a requirement for the team to be able to add it onto the deal itself. Now, that's the thought process behind it, and that's the methodology behind it. So here's an example of what that looks like. Your MEDDPICC score, much like you guys see with Ebsta, Ebsta will actually push some of this information onto HubSpot, like this particular properties will be pushed onto HubSpot. The thing that we have personalized here is the particular drop-down options that the team is able to choose from, and then actual MEDDPICC score that is based on the information that I just mentioned. So as you start adding information onto your deal, depending on exactly what it is that you want to capture, the system, based on workflows and a lot of things that I really won't bother you with, will be able to see a particular score for the deal itself. And so as you start adding more information to it, your deal is more likely to actually have a good prospect in terms of winning it. So as I add more information on here, the system will continue on to add onto my score. So I'll add a few more. If you see the score right here is 5, but as I add a few more, the system will recalculate. And I'll go back to that in just a second so that we can see what the change in the MEDDPICC score is, because it will take a minute to calculate. Now, I'll now go into the way in which we visualize this within our HubSpot instance. And I want to just park here for another minute because each report is different. The way that you read it is different. So what I was interested in seeing is when are my deals closing? And so if I know that a deal is closing today, tomorrow, this week, I know that my score needs to be higher, because if my score is particularly low and I'm planning for it to close today, maybe that adds a level of risk to the deal itself. So the x-axis on here is actually going to be my close date. And then I've made my y-axis the actual MEDDPICC score. And the system will also, like how big or small the actual circle is also based on the MEDDPICC score. So the way that I'm then able to read this graph is this guy over here that is going to close, closer to the end of the quarter, I'm not worried about the fact that they have a low MEDDPICC score, because we're still in the discovery process. We're still gathering that information, and the system will not have the entire breadth of the scope of the actual MEDDPICC score. But if I were to have a deal closer to closing this week and my MEDDPICC score was still in the 5 to 10 range, that's a high risk for my deal. And I'll need to be able to visually understand what's happening so that I can focus my time in helping the team actually cover the deals that need that attention, right? So this is just another visualization of the type of reports that Guy was showing us earlier on, but this can be customizable. That's a good thing about it. Like, you can see this information however it best fits you. This is just the way that visually makes more sense for us. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh back here so that we can see the info here. So as you can see, we jumped up from 5 to 11. And so real time, as you're going through these deals, it's updating and it's forcing your team to actually capture the information. And so MEDDPICC score, relationship score, propensity score, those 3 different pieces are really what's going to mark the difference between you're actually putting the energy where you need to put it versus, really not knowing what's going on with your pipeline. Because let's face it, Guy, like, a lot of people just lack a lot of that visibility, right? And that's what this revenue analysis and forecasting is really about.
Yeah, look, we want to help teams become a lot more data driven, and it doesn't need to be a heavy lift. If your team haven't completed a certain minimum criteria within MEDDPICC, they shouldn't be out of discovery phase. And if they don't have enough engagement with the right stakeholders, well, then they can't move into a POC, for example. So knowing what those gates and triggers need to be is all within your systems already. It's just in the wrong place. So the first thing we have to do is do this benchmarking, so that within 30 days of a customer signing up, they get access to the whole platform, and we'll do all of this historical analysis. We go back 4 quarters, and we show you how the whole revenue engine is pacing. Now, we can't make any changes, right? We'll show you the data, but if you don't bring people like Diana into the business, then the next quarter when we deliver you the next report, nothing would have changed. But if you start to take this kind of data-driven approach to revenue operations, you can start to make small incremental improvements at every stage of the sales cycle, and the impact on outcomes is exponential. So the good news is it's not a lot of heavy lifting, and there's very little change management for the users on the ground because everything is done for them now, right? I wish I had all this when I was an individual contributor. But on the other side of that, this isn't a one and done process. Okay, so revenue operations, it's like going to the gym, right? I wish we could all just go once a year and get a 6-pack, but we have to keep going, have that consistency where we're looking for small incremental improvements every week, every month, every quarter. And you can start to actually build this in and make it a much more collaborative process with the individual contributors themselves.
Yeah, that's a great point. So just to recap a little bit of what you've talked about, actual adoption for the team, actual training and guidance and coaching that managers are able to give the team, and the insights that management need in order to do their own forecasting, their own analysis, maybe do a few changes or make a few changes in terms of their process or operations, and also being able to manage up, right? Like, how do you show how you're doing to your CEO or to your exec team or to the owner or whomever it is that it needs to be? Like, that information in terms of forecasting and analysis is vital to be able to move the needle and to show all of the different stakeholders where you are.
Very good. Well, okay. I suppose we should probably appreciate everyone's time today. So if we have any questions, happy to jump in at this stage and answer any questions from the attendees. Is there any? If you want to put those in the chat, we can pick those up as we go.
Yeah. We don't have any questions just quite yet, but I did want to talk about something while we have a question coming up. Actually, we have a question just now. I'm going to shoot this over to you guys. So what size sales team would be the minimum to realize the impact of this type of analysis?
That's a really good question. Okay, so we've got customers using our revenue intelligence platform with 5 salespeople in the business, and that's not, that's fine. If you're trying to build and scale, then getting the right processes in place is absolutely everything. I think the key here is really the type of business that you're running. If you do one deal a quarter, then perhaps revenue intelligence isn't all you need. And if you're all sitting around the same desk, then you kind of see each other, you can talk to each other. You may not even need a CRM if you're at that stage. But if you're choosing to, if you're getting to a size where you've got people that are perhaps working remotely, you only need, to give you an idea of scale, you only need 50 reps working 20 opportunities a quarter each to have 4,000 deals a year going through your business. Now, so you can understand that you get down to 5 or 10 reps working, then again, there's still a lot of volume going through. And for an individual, for a manager to be able to see and understand where the risks are in live pipeline, they need this type of analysis to be able to run. And again, while the salespeople are the ones that will benefit from this data, we're interested in understanding the relationships the entire organization is building. So the people in the finance department are engaging with people, the customer success team, the sales engineers. We want to know about all of the engagement activity going on so we can identify where there's risk in live pipe and where relationships and momentum is taking place. So, and that was just as important in customers that are in for customer success as well. How often we see accounts where the relationship and momentum and engagement with the key stakeholders and economic buyers trend upwards, then we get a deal signed, and then they trend down. And 12 months later, the customer churns, not because people didn't love the product, but because no one was maintaining the relationship with the key stakeholders. And knowing and having visibility of what relationships are trending up and down over time means that you're able to identify that a whole lot earlier. And you can pick up on those opportunities and the customers that are coming up for renewal, and you can make sure that you're building the right relationships with the right stakeholders.
That's a great point. And just to add on to that, we recommend, like, the way that we think about revenue operations is through the bow tie model. I don't know if everybody here is sort of like familiar with it, but the bow tie model really puts a lot of emphasis into what happens after a customer actually becomes a customer, because net new revenue is not the entire breadth of the revenue, right? Like, a lot of your revenue comes from renewals, a lot of your revenue comes from cross sells. So how do you maintain those relationships with like predetermined process that is actually telling and guiding your team as to how to build that engagement? So I have another question, and this one I think is geared towards me. So Diana, what is your recommendation to get started? What would be the first step? Listen, your database is going to be the most important piece in regards to getting started. And so Guy talked a little bit about this at the beginning. Without actual data hygiene, without having your CRM in place with the processes, like we actually call it an MVP. What's the minimum viable product of your CRM to be able to actually get your team started and working through it? That's going to be that very first step. Once you have your CRM and process set up and you have adoption within your CRM, then that's when you can start understanding how that type of information feeds into all of your different go-to-market teams, right? So how does this actually affect marketing versus sales versus customer success? Because those are going to be the three different teams that are going to need to speak the same language so they can all understand how to action on this information.
Yeah, what I'd say, the only other point I'd make is we offer HubSpot customers now a 2-week free trial. We're on the HubSpot App Exchange. We're also from the front page of our website. You can click Get Started. There's no commitment, no credit cards required. And you can connect your HubSpot to our platform and start to see some of these insights without any, and then have a little play. So give it a go and let us know how you get on.
Awesome. Okay, Guy, how do you manage the integrity of the data, specifically in the SMB market, where most information can be found in self-reported or non-existent?
No, and let me start by telling everyone this isn't just an issue with SMB customers. I won't name names, but we recently signed a Fortune 500 customer. We found 98% of their active relationships were not in CRM. Okay, so you're not alone is the short answer. Okay, the good news is you have the data, it's just in the wrong place. And so we're living in 2023 now, and so you shouldn't be relying on the sales resource. The talent in the sales team should not be responsible for admin. Okay, so we can take that responsibility away by by putting in place a process or an engine that we connect to the mailboxes, the calendars, the emails, the phone records as well, and we'll maintain the data on behalf of the individual contributors themselves. So we're going to make sure that we capture every contact, we understand every relationship, and we're monitoring all of the activity that's taking place to show you what's going on in real time. And therefore, because we're not relying on humans to do it, we can actually believe the data points that are coming out the other end because it's not subjective. Okay, so the short answer is at this stage in 2023, we shouldn't be relying on humans to do this heavy lifting. We can put a machine in place and it can do all of the work for you.
Yeah, fantastic. And just so you guys know, I mean, we do have a lot of like HubSpot audits, data audits. Just being able to understand where your data hygiene is very important. And so feel free to reach out to us as well in regards to understanding where your HubSpot stands at the moment, so that you can see a path forward in order to organize everything. I'm going to go into the next question here, guys. So what impact does this end up having on marketing in terms of measuring lead quality? It's a good question.
That's a phenomenal question. So again, I think we talked about this briefly earlier. Marketing has gone from being responsible for generating leads and then opportunities. It's now responsible for generating the revenue and ultimately the number. And so as the only department in the front office that's actually been data driven for a decade, marketing are well placed. They've got the muscle. They understand the value of data. And what we're able to do in marketing is actually help the other commercial teams, the sales and success teams, to understand what the data is telling us about different quality of leads. So knowing that a customer is in market, that they fit our ICP, that tells us that if we manage the sales cycle correctly, we're going to achieve this conversion rate and this average deal value in this time frame. And so by showing the rest of the commercial engines what they should be doing, or what conversion rates they can expect off the back of the leads, the different types of leads that marketing are generating, then you can start to lead the charge as the marketing function. And the beauty of the benchmarking that we do, even if you haven't been using propensity or intent scoring in the past, we've got the data from the past. So we can do the historical analysis and show you every deal closed, won and lost in the past. Were they in market before you reached out to them? You know, what level of engagement did you actually have? Were they likely? Were they a good target in the first place? Or did we just luck out and actually the conversion rate of that type of deal is only 5%? But these ones over here that look like this, we can get a conversion rate of 50% on those. So knowing that historically, by doing that historical analysis and giving you that benchmarking out the box, you can then take that to the commercial teams and say, right, guys, let's build a strategy here. Instead of just spray and pray, the marketing team are now going to target customers that meet this criteria because we know it has the best conversion rates.
Yeah, I can also see a world where that propensity score plays a huge role into like middle of the funnel and nurturing, and actually like before an op is created or a deal is created, understanding where they are and what their intent is can even be automated in a way of like when somebody hits a certain propensity score, send them this workflow of emails, or make sure to ping the SDR to reach out to them, or whatever the case may be, and actually make it actionable for the team to understand where leads actually become MQL and SQLs, right? So that's a game changer.
Spot on. And I think marketing has a great role to play middle of the funnel, right? So if we know that the best time to engage with the CFO is stage 3, for example, in a sales process, well, when we're at stage 2, marketing can start warming up the CFO, right? And so really working in collaboration and understanding what the data tells us, what stage we're going to be engaging with, which stakeholders, we can start warming them up with targeted adverts in advance.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good stuff. Next question here. Are the only activities that contribute to relationship score sales activities within HubSpot, like emails, calls, or tasks, or can you manually input different types, like in-person events, gifts, or others?
Yeah, so we've got customers that we're taking feeds of things like instant texting services. Some people are using WhatsApp for Business. WeChat in APAC is a big feed for us. So we can take any data point you have and use it to influence not just the engagement score, but also the deal score as well. So each customer is different. We'll look at all data points that you have, we always reference emails, calendars, and calls because everyone uses emails, calendars, and calls. But we can take on board all other data points that you have, and actually the deal score is looking at all sorts of data points, and it doesn't matter what vendor you're using. All the different technologies in your front office tech stack is going to give you some sort of signal. And what we're interested in understanding is the influence of those individual signals as well as the combined of those individual signals, the combination of those individual signals on revenue. And so by doing the historical benchmarking, even on those different signals, we're able to show you what good looks like. So the more signals you can give us access to, the better the output.
Yep. And that type of personalization is key because, again, every single business is different. We actually measure our goals, and like the way that we set up our quota is through MRR and non-recurring revenue. And we've been able to also build that within Ebsta so that we can have different type of reporting, because usually you'd have like a TCV type of forecasting and reporting. And so having that flexibility to personalize the way in which your business works and the way in which you're doing your forecasting and understanding the information is vital to be able to like really build that adoption. So it's important to note there's a lot of customization that can be done around this. Okay, those are all of the questions that we have for today. I want to thank you, Guy, for coming to us today, for sharing the reports. We are going to be sharing the recording, the actual, deck, and the report itself after the webinar here through an email, so you guys can have access to everything. Please do feel free to reach out. I mean, Ebsta, you guys have a free trial. Guy, you just mentioned it. You can reach out to us in regards to questions about HubSpot, about RevOps. You're going to have all of our contact information. And in this deck, there's also a QR code to be able to actually, pull the report itself. It has so much insights. Like here, we've just like really high level touched on the 5 key points, but really go into this benchmark report because it has a lot of information, a lot of insights, and you're going to be hooked on it for a little bit.
Well, again, Diana, thank you so much for hosting today. It's lovely to meet your community. Please do reach out to me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with everyone as well. Appreciate everyone's time today, and I'll see you on the next one, I suppose.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and we'll send everything via email. Have a good day. Bye.